I'm Vice Admiral Angus Topshee. I'm the commander of the Royal Canadian Navy, or as the position sometimes called, Kraken. There's a long-standing belief in Canada that the three oceans around us and the US to the south are all we need to protect ourselves. Well, that's not true anymore. And oceans only protect us with a Navy to defend them. With the capabilities that we have, we're under threat all of the time in cyberspace and in space. And so we're recognizing the change in the strategic environment and that we need to be able to protect ourselves, defend our interests, make sure that we can assure the security of our own waters and airspace. And so we're working to make sure we can achieve that. Well, like Australia, we're a maritime nation, even though most Canadians don't really truly appreciate that. So much of our trade goes by sea, and we really depend on freedom of the seas for that free exchange of goods around the world. And so when you see choke points threatened, when you see the seas constrained, when you see the rules-based order not being followed any longer, that threatens the prosperity of our country, to be honest. We've benefited immensely from that stable, peaceful world at sea over the last 80 years, and we think that that needs to continue. So we're a small Navy, but we're globally deployable. So we've had ships deployed to every ocean and sea of the world, from the Arctic to Antarctic over the last year. We've got quite a presence in the Indo-Pacific. We try to achieve a near persistent presence all the time with our ships. And really the biggest challenge we face these days is making sure we can recruit enough great Canadians in to fill our ranks out. So our biggest challenge is the three oceans that surround us are very distinct and different oceans. The Atlantic has a lot of countries around it, but it's a relatively tiny pond when you compare it to the vast Pacific Ocean. And then the Arctic is just a different environment entirely. You know, up through the Canadian North, there's only 140,000 people. There are no ice-free ports in the Canadian Arctic. The only ice-free port in the North American Arctic is in Nuuk in Greenland. So all operations up in our Arctic are challenging. It's a distant and empty theater of operations, just the Canadians who live up there. Pretty much like every other defense policy, the primary focus is the defense of Canada. And that, for us, as an Arctic state, is one of the primary things, is to make sure that we really can control all of our waters and airspace around us, including up into the high north. But we've also got an Indo-Pacific policy, and so a commitment by the Canadian government to live up to our history and our reality as a Pacific nation, to make sure we're out here. So you've seen a plus up of our resources, not just on the military side, but also on the diplomatic side. So an increased presence through all of our embassies and high commissions in the region, including here in Australia. Our government has put together a pretty much unprecedented commitment to spending, including getting to 2% of our gross domestic product on defense this year. That's 5 years ahead of the previous schedule, so it's a pretty significant infusion of money. And with the budget that was released yesterday, we're looking at even more money into defense and a clear path to the NATO target of 3.5% on core defense spending by 2035. So there's a lot more money going into defense in Canada. And we're looking to places like Australia to figure out how exactly are you seeing, there's a similar increase in defense spending down here that's been going on for longer. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to learn from what's been done here in Australia, and in particular, a lot of interest in what's going on in Western Australia, the Henderson Defence Precinct, and this sort of idea to how do you modernize and rebuild an industrial base to set for this more challenging strategic environment we're in right now. Historically, we've always been an anti-submarine warfare focused Navy. You know, if you look at where Canada sits, it's making sure that we keep submarines far from the coast of North America as our primary function. And then in crisis or competition, it's about keeping the sea lines of communication open. So we're firm believers in a rules-based order, and we do whatever we can around the world to support that rules-based order. Like Australia, we've got a commitment to a sovereign shipbuilding capability. So 15 years ago, we started a national shipbuilding strategy. And I would say it's been difficult, it's been expensive, it's been painful at times, but it's now paying off. I would argue that the Irving shipyard in Halifax, Nova Scotia is the best shipyard in North America. It's delivered our 6 ice-breaking Arctic and offshore patrol vessels. It's started building our River-class destroyer, our version of the Type 26. So that's been a great thing. We've now got a sovereign shipbuilding capability back. The rest of the Canadian defense industry, there are pockets of brilliance and excellence. Like Kraken Robotics behind me is a fantastic company based in Halifax as well. That is, a lot of their technology is used in platforms around the world. And so there's opportunity. We're down here. We looked at Ghost Shark with a lot of interest at what Australia's done there. And I think, under AUKUS Pillar 2, the tremendous opportunities for us to cooperate to support both of our interests. We've been known as world leaders in aerospace industries, satellite communications. Most people don't realize that Canada was the third nation in space, and we maintain a pretty vibrant space industry. So that's one of the areas. And cryptography, actually, artificial intelligence and quantum computing are all particular strengths of the tech sector that is in Ontario. Offshore Systems International is one of the world's leading bridge integrators, so really impressed with what they've done. They were pioneers in electronic navigation, and now they're working on some really interesting collision avoidance decision aids that are a step towards full autonomous surface vessels. It's a really important relationship to us. We've always been proud of our affiliation through the Five Eyes community. But with the Arctic over-the-horizon radar system that we've purchased, I think that's the largest foreign sale for Australia in some time, and so we're really pleased to be a part of it. It's a great technology that we're looking forward to putting into service in Canada. I think there's other opportunities for us to work closely together. There's a long-standing history of personnel exchanges between the Royal Canadian Navy and the Royal Australian Navy. So I run into what we used to call OSTOs all the time, people who served and earned their initial watchkeeping certificates on Canadian ships. And likewise, we had a number of Canadians who first got their bridge watchkeeping certificates on Australian ships. And so that person-to-person connection at the sailor level is fantastic, and I think it's something we can really build on. I think one of the biggest similarities is both of us, our submarine forces in the Second World War served on British submarines. And so we didn't have our own submarines for a long period. Then we had a shared history with the Oberon-class submarines. Our Victoria class, the Australian Collins class, and so throughout all of that we maintained a close affiliation. So I think in the submarine service we saw a really close affiliation for a long time. Now interestingly, we're following different paths now. I think AUKUS is a great path for the Australian Navy, and for Australia it really meets the strategic imperative. Whereas in Canada, I think the path we're following to pursue 12 conventionally powered submarines makes sense for where we're at this moment. But we continue to cooperate in all of the different challenges that we face. We have the same requirements to surveil vast areas of ocean expanse, to monitor coastlines, and to be able to respond to any threat that might emerge in those waters. So we've always had a really close affiliation with the Australian Navy. So in some respects, we're quite similar in size. In terms of the Anzac frigates and the Halifax class frigates, very similar. The difference is that we've never developed an amphibious capability outside of wartime. We don't have air warfare destroyers at this point. We are building a Canadian version of the Hunter class, and so we're excited to be part of the Type 26 Global Combat Ship User Group. I'm really interested with how you are reshaping industries in the Henderson Defence Precinct. I think there's a lot that we could learn there as we look at reshaping our industries, especially in the automotive sector in Ontario and Quebec. Are there lessons that we can take there from how you take in an area that's got a history of industrial development, but put it onto a modern footing and reshape it for sort of delivering in today's strategic environment? I think that as I watch the sort of development of AUKUS Pillar 1, just watching Australia's very deliberate and careful approach to bringing on a capability like nuclear power is really impressive. Canada is one of the leading nuclear nations in the world in terms of our civilian nuclear industry. So we know the challenges of regulating a nuclear industry. To go from zero to 60 and do it on a nuclear submarine fleet's a real challenge. I'm really impressed to see how that's been going and how deliberately the maintenance capability is being built up in Western Australia to be able to make sure you can sustain that safely. We remain committed to the Pacific, to the rules-based order here, and we think that what the Australian Navy is doing in terms of building the force that they need to protect Australia's interests is a great model and a great path for us to follow. So we're keen to continue to be a close ally, keen to continue to leverage all of the goodness and ideas that come out of Australia, take those that make sense for us and apply them, and likewise share whatever we have to offer to Australia. I think it's a great partnership. Particularly pleased with my friendship with Admiral Mark Hammond as the Chief of Navy here. We've been in the job for the same length of time, and we've really built a close cooperative relationship throughout. We've got some great Canadian companies down here. So like I mentioned, Kraken Robotics, the Cellular Robotics, which builds a really fantastic extra large undersea uncrewed system. Offshore Systems International, a leader in electronic navigation and bridge integration, are down here. So that's a few of the companies. I think there's 18 in total. So I think for the AUKUS Pillar 2 projects, right? So how do we get some game-changing technologies into service by leveraging the best of innovation in all of our defense industries and defense services? How do we then scale those? Because it's not just about developing the exquisite capability, it's about bringing it into service in mass. That's what Ukraine is showing us that we need to be able to do, and speeding innovation and delivery of that capability. So I think I'm always willing to steal good ideas from anywhere I see them. And so the way that Australia's worked to develop Ghost Shark is a perfect idea of how to pioneer a game-changing technology. Every time I come to an event like this, I have the opportunity to meet with my counterparts from around the world. Australia's got a great ability to attract countries from all over. The Pacific, if you think about all of the different Pacific navies that are represented here, I was able to sit down with my counterparts from Colombia, from the Netherlands, from Germany as well. So even European countries were coming here. Met with Admiral Sato from Japan. It's just a great opportunity to see counterparts and to talk through how they see the world. But also I get the chance to walk a floor like this and see different technologies and be inspired with ideas that my team back in Ottawa isn't so thrilled with sometimes, when I'm like, hey, why can't I have this capability and how soon can you deliver it? This is really well run. It's I think that the Indo-Pacific Conference and the Sea Power Conference that goes with it is just an incredibly well organized event. It demonstrates what right looks like. So it really demonstrates the professionalism and commitment and the incredible capacity of Australia to host events like this.